Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Monsters. Today we have Jess here with us from Cleveland.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Welcome. All right, Jess. So you're a Cleveland girl. Dan and I are Cleveland kids.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. We both kind of left Cleveland, in our 20s, I think. But we go home all the time to visit.
Aww.
Miss certain things, you know?
Yeah, not the snow and the ice. Certainly.
Absolutely not the snow. No.
I will say the weather today here really trumps what it's been at home. I got to tell you that.
I bet. And like today, now it's 80, and last week it was like 30. So
right?
It's crazy. It's kind of like Cleveland.
You just never know. Actually sounds reminiscent. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm excited for you too. I'm excited that you're here and you're doing a TED Talk on Saturday.
I am.
Yes.
It still seems kind of crazy to say out loud.
I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited.
I've been prepping and practicing, and I'm starting to feel ready adjacent.
Good.
I'm excited.
Well, you're amazing at speaking and stuff anyway. So
Thank you very much.
You'll be fine. All right. Well, the floor is yours. We can start wherever you want.
It. Oh my gosh. I know that's always the hard part.
Like where do I start? Yeah.
My journey it began completely when I was honestly a teenager. Okay. I met my first husband at the ripe old age of 18, fresh out of 12 years of Catholic schooling, like a really wonderfully blessed life. I was the only child. I had incredible parents. My mother had a condition called Turner syndrome, so it's a chromosomal disorder. She was sick on and off my whole life, but nothing super awful until my senior year of high school. So I was definitely struggling with that. And I only share that because at that point in my life, I had no idea how to process it. And it was, I think it's a generational thing. Our parents they share what they felt they had to share, which wasn't much.
Yes.
So I'm watching this person who I idolized, my mother. Everyone says that when people have passed. God rest my mom. She's been gone almost 19 years, sweet Patty Sue. But she was just the best human ever. Like just this infectious love for the world and Jesus and people. And to know her was to genuinely love her. Oh. So to watch her fade away before my eyes was really hard. But then to watch my dad be a caretaker to her and kind of lose pieces of himself, working all the time and going to the hospital and managing keeping her safe at home. And I didn't really know my place. So I definitely acted out and felt like I needed to just figure out who I was or where I was going to fit in. I wasn't in the healthiest headspace. So that when I met my abuser at 18, right after I graduated high school, I was just served up on a silver platter. I was so ready to absorb all of the love bombing and anything he had to throw at me. I didn't know it at the time, but he had just recently gotten out of his first stint in prison.
Oh.
For
same age? Was he same age?
He's a little bit older than me.
Okay.
Like a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years, if that. But it was something non-violent related. Okay. But of course, I didn't know. He was just, adorable and said all the right things. And it was almost appealing that he kind of was from the other side of the tracks and hadn't really graduated high school and this little bit of an edge of a bad boy.
Yeah.
Because that so wasn't me growing up in a private school. Right. I was like this awkward tomboy, just whatever, doing my thing. And we fell super hard, super fast. We ended up moving to the middle of nowhere, like in swampland, Ohio. Okay. I found out right before my 19th birthday, we were going to be expecting our first child. And, for some reason, it just wasn't panicked. I never panicked because I idolized my own mom so much. And those were my big aspirations. At the time, I wanted to be a personal trainer and I was doing that and all these things, but I wasn't going to go to college. Right. Much to my father's dismay with his master's and engineering degree and all these things. He was so happy about that choice. But I wanted to be a mom. And I was like, okay, great. Like, cool. Now I get to do what she's doing.
Yeah.
And it was maybe 3.5 months into that pregnancy that he ever physically first touched me. And it was so jarring and unexpected. And you just think comparatively you were raised to not really know divorce intimately. Thankfully, I was very blessed and fortunate in that way. I was raised to not have an understanding of what abuse looked like. We didn't ever really have those conversations. There was no need to.
Didn't have to, right?
So we were at like the river with friends. Everybody had been drinking. I naturally was not being pregnant. I just assumed I would be driving everyone home and went to climb into the car. And I felt a huge yank on the back of my head. And he yanked and threw me down onto this gravel drive. And my ears were ringing and I was kind of confused. And then it's like I'm starting to focus. I hear just his voice screaming at me, yelling curse words. And what the F are you thinking? Get out of the driver's seat, you dumb beat, blah, 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 blah. And I was so taken back by it. I just got into the car and I'm sitting in the back seat. He's driving us home, screaming at me with other people in the car. There was actually a couple with us, a mom who had like an infant. She refused to get in the car because she was with it enough. And she was like, Jess, come with me. Get out. What are you doing? And I just remember being so out of it. Like
Right.
I maybe concussed.
Blindsided.
I have no idea. I couldn't put two and two together. She left, got out of the car and like hid in a field of some sort, waiting for someone else to come get her. She was like, I'm not going anywhere with this guy.
And he was drinking too? Okay.
Yeah. And that was the first moment that it really dawned on me, like, I don't know what this is. And I wanted to call my mom because she was still alive at the time, but her health had not been great. And so it's like, oh, do I want to burden her? And do I want to stress my dad out? Probably not. Because I know this is wrong, but like what the hell actually happened?
You still don't even know what happened.
What was I was so confused by it all. Because then by the time we got home, we were just like fine and shooting the shit and everybody was okay. And we lived with a family member of his. So that was the first person I ever disclosed anything to. And we were very close, had a great relationship. And I remember telling him what happened and was really upset and kind of confused and freaked out and shooken up. And he just looked at me and said, well, like, are you bleeding? Let me see your head. I don't know if I like see a lump. I feel like you're okay. You probably just had too much to drink. You know how guys are. Just let him chill out and like sleep it off. It'll be fine.
So an enabler for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
And that being the first time I ever disclosed to someone was just such a pivotal point in that whole journey because I didn't tell anybody else until I had no choice for years. Because I'm like, if his own family member can't see it, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it
Was
just
he
wasn't
verbally abusive before that? Okay.
It was more of the controlling piece, but I almost, not that I wanted to be controlled, but I went straight from my parents' home to being, I like needed someone to tell me where to go and what to do. So it made me upset and I didn't understand it, but also was like, okay, well, maybe this is just what it is. Maybe this is what it's supposed to be when
like
you're
how
young.
love is. Yeah. I don't know.
God. It was just wild. The next several years were filled with a lot of uncertainty, tremendous amounts of verbal abuse and the emotional warfare. I don't even phrase it as abuse because that's what it feels like. Like all of a sudden you have been enlisted in this sick game of war that you never signed up for. You didn't go to basic training. Nobody has prepared you. And they're always 10 steps ahead. Like somehow, and I consider myself to be a moderately intelligent person, but somehow he was always so far ahead of me in the art of manipulation and gaslighting that I just couldn't even keep up. And it felt like the longer I was with him, the deeper I went down this hole of maybe 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. I don't actually know if the sky is blue. It might be green and the grass is blue. I don't know. If he says so, then sure.
Yeah, they make you question everything.
Everything. I lost out on time with my mom before she passed away because you're just willing to do whatever it takes, especially having been raised in an environment where divorce wasn't in our language. Then you have children together. We're just going to figure it out. We're going to make it work.
How was he after like you had your first child? Did it change him at all?
If anything, it just got worse.
Got worse.
Yeah. Certainly he loved, we eventually had 2 kids, loved them, but I just don't think he knew how to love safely and effectively. So whatever he felt like he was doing wasn't actually love.
Yeah.
It was all just warped and through such a sick lens. And then it was more on me than you're tired and you need help. And I remember even after we had our first daughter, I was 19 years old. My mom was very sick at the time. She had left the hospital. And I'm sitting there with this sweet little baby, this 10-pound sweet little baby, waiting for like our little family moment. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to take off too. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Well, your mom left. So I'll just let you rest. I'm like, what do you mean rest? I just like pushed a human out of my, what's happening?
Right.
And I now know he went to like go hang with another chick or do whatever he wanted to do. He told me he had to go home and like sleep or get ready for work or something. And it was the exact same experience when I had our second. He was there sparingly in and out, working, doing whatever he wanted. And it was my job to be there and take care of them. And I didn't have easy pregnancies specifically with our second. By the time I got pregnant for the second time, I knew exactly who and what he was. And that's when I was terrified to have another baby.
Okay.
Because the mask was off. I could see him so clearly, but I had no idea how to get out of it. I had no idea.
More physical now?
Yeah. More, and just even, I wasn't around friends as much. And I realized I was like losing, as awkward and tomboyish as I was, I had a very clear sense of my identity growing up. I was a leader in many ways. I didn't care what the world thought of me. I was so comfortable in my own skin. And now I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror. And I didn't know how to connect with other people because I was terrified that if I connected too much, they would know this dirty little secret. And I was so ashamed of what was happening in my life because then to tell them one little piece, you pull that thread and all of this unravels. And when they're telling you, well, you've stayed. Or if you wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have had to do this or act this way. Or you wouldn't give me what I wanted sexually, so that's why I had to look elsewhere. Or can you blame me? Look, your body, you've had 2 kids and the stretch marks and the this. Of course, I'm going to want to do other things. So you begin to believe it after so long. And that's the only voice.
The fact that they even have the balls to say that blows my mind.
Yeah.
That even comes out of their mouth.
Astonishing. God. I mean, even the day that we lost my mom, the week of all that, as much of a blur, that was some of his most like monstrous behavior. Sexual assault had kind of become like a normal reoccurrence because I just no longer desired him in that way. Once I knew he had been with other people, I looked at him different. And I was getting to the point where I was almost provocative because I couldn't figure out how to leave. I didn't have those tools. So I'm like, okay, well, if somebody else sees something, if it gets bad enough, because abusers are so smart and charismatic and charming and manipulative. And I have my people in my life loving him because when he's around them, oh my gosh, he's everybody's like best friend.
Oh yeah, they put it on.
So then I'm like, they have to see something. When it does get physical, it's not in an area that they could see. And I don't know how to just show someone. But the week my mother passed, the day before our calling hours, he took advantage of me sexually. And I just remember zoning out. You just get to a point where, I was so numb.
Disassociate.
Yeah. The loss of her, even though she had been sick, she had been getting better. So we had been on this roller coaster and you really thought you were like on this downward hill and things were going to get better. And I really wanted, we were engaged at that point, and I really wanted to like prove to her, Mom, like I made the right choice and things are okay. And
did she ever know about anything that was going on?
No. I feel like she probably had senses that he just wasn't great, or like maybe not the guy she would choose for me.
Right.
But she was never healthy enough for us to have like a mother-daughter conversation where I could ask her for help.
Yeah.
But I don't even remember like being in my own body during those moments. I just remember telling him like, okay, like, come on, just stop. Like, what are you doing? And then I got thrown onto the bed and then you're just like lights out. The less I fight, the less things are going to hurt, the quicker it'll be over. And then I can just go to bed. Because tomorrow I have to get up and somehow say goodbye to like the only person who I feel has ever actually seen me. And then we wake up and everything's fine. And we go to my mom's calling hours and all of her sisters are there and my grandparents. And, he's rubbing my back and holding my hand. Oh, isn't he so sweet? And he's so supportive and just found such a good guy. And then the more people say that, the more I really wanted to believe it. And I don't want to tell them that like, actually, no, I've been lying to you guys for all these years. So and especially not right now when we're saying goodbye to Pat, where I'm not going to say that. So die with the lie because you don't even know how to undo all the things. And it just eventually got to a point where I had no choice in the matter. I had really, he was brazen in the abuse, whether it was physically, sexually, emotionally, otherwise. There was no consideration. The cycle of abuse was like there wasn't a whole lot of like honeymoon phase anymore because we were just always at each other's throats.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't okay. I would tell him I'm just going to leave. And in those moments, he would kind of start to turn around because he could sense he was losing control a little bit. But it wasn't until the kids had got in between us during a pretty bad fight that, I mean, it was all through the house.
How old were they then?
In diapers. So I think our son was, I don't even know, a year and a half. So our daughter would have been maybe almost 3. They're only like 18, 19 months apart. And it was just, in those moments, it was just like a war zone looking back. And you feel so guilty as a parent. But I'd gotten to this place where I was like, do what you want with me. I don't care.
Right.
I have no regard for my own safety. I don't really know what I'm doing in my own life. I'm just protecting the babies.
Mm-hmm.
I just like, somebody has to be here to make sure they're okay. And it ended with him. He had pinned me down on the steps because I was trying to get away from him. He strangled me and it lifted me like my feet up off the floor. And then I'm trying to run away from him and he had thrown me down in the dining room and broken a chair and my ribs were cracked and my kids were in the living room. So in my brain, I just kept saying, get to the kids, get to the kids, get to the kids. So I'm trying to get them and I have our son on my lap and our daughter was on the step above me and he just, and I saw it in his eyes, cocked his fist back and punched me right in the temple for the first time ever. He had hit me before, but never like that. And I used to always tell myself, well, I mean, okay, yeah, no, it's bad, but like, at least he's not punching me. He's not doing this. Like other women have it so much worse. I just need to like love him enough, be good enough, be patient enough, something. And the look in his eyes that day was, I'll never forget the way that he looked at me. And I remember immediately knowing how easily it could have been one of the babies. And I slapped him back for the first time ever.
So you had never fought back or anything?
I had fought in like if you're strangling me or trying to pin me down, I will fight back. But I'd never struck another person.
Okay.
Ever. Because I was always so terrified of what would come after. And he would say that, like, just stop fighting, just stop, chill out. The more I fought, then it's my fault. He would get more aggressive and it was my fault. And I'm sure it wasn't hard. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm in an awkward moment and I kind of have babies on me. And then, I mean, he just saw nothing but red and pulled me up the steps by my hair, took me to the bedroom, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. And the kids were outside just yelling for me. And I didn't fight back at all because I just needed to get to them. And I was very aware. I mean, instinctually, when he punched me in the face, that they're not okay. They're not going to be okay. Just because they're babies right now, they're going to get older. What happens when my son is like a man in his eyes? What's he going to do? Or my daughter, like girls become teenagers and they're mouthy and they fight. Like, what is he going to do to her? And like, I can't let that. I just let him do what he wants. And it was probably the most violent he ever was in the bedroom in that scenario. And I think because I was just so checked out, he knew I was done. And he immediately began saying, okay, just like calm down. Or do you want ice for your face? And I just kept saying, I need my keys. I'm leaving right now. And you're not going to stop me or I'm going to call the police. I kept threatening to call the police. He hid my keys. And eventually, I don't remember how or why, he gave them to me. We left and went to a member of his family's because at this point, my mom was gone. My dad was beyond a shell of a human being in his own grief. I didn't really have other people that I felt I could just unload all of us to. And that was, in hindsight, some of the most frustrating parts when I began healing was whenever I really reached out for help, it was people within his circle because I felt like they knew him and they knew the abuse was happening. They knew what he was doing. This wasn't new information because he had done pieces and parts of this to them. Like he was never a kind person. He had come after members of his family. His family member was supportive and apologetic, but it was never to the point of like, you cannot stay anymore. I'm going to help you leave. I'm so sorry.
Wow,
We're
no one
out.
stepped up.
Nobody.
Like that.
I ended up at my very best friend's house, and that was the first time anyone ever looked me in the eye. And she was like, Jess, this is insane. You have got to leave now. And immediately I fired back at her with, what the fuck are you talking about? You're not married. You don't get it. It's not that simple. Meanwhile, at this point, my face is like huge and black and blue. I can barely open my jaw. She was trying to convince me to see a doctor. And we had been best friends for like our entire lives. Our daughters are the same age. Like we did life together. She was a maid of honor in our wedding. She was by my side when we buried my mom. She knows everything. And we're not emotional like that. Like we don't cry. It's like a silly, we're not that way with one another. So for her to go out of her way to say like, absolutely not, dude, something is very wrong.
Yeah.
And I knew it. And I knew if she was saying it to me, and for some reason I just went in defense because I was so embarrassed. And I'm like, it's not that simple. I'm married and the kids and you don't understand.
It's because she was right.
She was entirely
probably didn't
right.
want to face it fully.
No, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to leave. I think I was just terrified because I didn't know how, like the logistics of it. I was working as a coach, as a gymnastics coach, but all my money went in his bank account. I had nothing in my name. I had nothing.
God, he was financially controlling too.
Massively.
Oh, God.
And I was raised Catholic. So we didn't get married in a Catholic church, but divorce is not really something that the Catholic Church is super supportive of. So it was not something that was really in my language. And after we got married, that was just his key line. I mean, we said for better or worse, right, Jess? This is the worst. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to leave me? You're going to leave me and do that? You think that God will ever love you and let you into his kingdom? You think that'll ever happen? Try it. See. And it was like when someone like that threatens you, you take it seriously, because when he's threatened to do this, he's done it. He threatens to hit me, he's hit me. So I'm like, well, crap. But the kids were just the bottom line. And I spoke to my minister at the time and he had married us. And I remember even sitting in premarital counseling, and you have to like do these little tests and compatibility things. And I remember trying desperately to like say that I was worried about his aggression. And I was, because you were writing it out, old school. This was a while ago now, like pen to paper. Yeah. And I said something about like the fighting or his level of aggression. And I remember talking about it. And so it was like planting the seed in our minister's mind, but we never elaborated. So that when I went back and kind of disclosed to him exactly what was going on, A, he felt really badly that he hadn't picked up on these signs, but how could he? And B, he just said, this is not what God believes a marriage is. So if that's what you're hanging your hat on, like this is not what God has taught us a man does to a woman, or how a husband treats a wife. So do not stay with him because you think you were married in the church and now God is just going to disown you when you leave.
Oh, I love him.
He was phenomenal. And I now know how lucky I am to have had that response, because so many other religious figures do not basically condone you leaving your husband.
Just stay and deal with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was another just golden ticket for me. He gave me the number to Catholic Charities. They gave me information for food stamps and WIC and all of these programs. Really? And I'm stubborn to a fault, but it works to my favor in situations like that, because then my mind was made up. Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation with my dad at some point and just said, basically, by the way, my marriage is bad and I have to leave. And I think it was just a weird God's timing of it all, because we didn't have like this long drawn out, what do you mean? And why? And how? And he's abusive. And there was none of that. It was just, he trusted that if I'm coming to him, something was awful. He had enough of his own life going on, and he had the ability to help. So he helped us find a place that was reasonable that I could afford. But as far as like down payments or first month's rent, he was able to help with that. And I had a plan, and I was so stubborn and convicted in that plan, and had done all the things. And, I went and got my own bank account. I had $62 to my name that I had like saved from grocery shopping or change that I had put in like the get cash back from the coin machine. Mm-hmm. whatever I could just to have something so I could actually open up an account. And I told my husband, who was horrifically abusive and had just cracked my ribs and broke my jaw. So I've made up my mind, and the kids and I are leaving. We don't have to get divorced. Like, I'm not saying our marriage is over, but this is not working and you need help. And abusers really love when you tell them what they're going to do and what's wrong with them. And somehow he was like, oh, okay. Almost. And I was like, oh, great. All like, cool. Then
Way
he's
too
like,
calm.
Yes. But I was just so focused on like, we're leaving. I had a date. I told him the day, the time. I didn't tell him the place. But I was like, so when you see me packing, like, this is why, this is what we're doing. And we can co-parent and maybe we'll go to therapy and it'll be great. We'll figure out like our home. I remember saying the words, this is not a safe place to raise children. I cannot allow them to be here. And he didn't really fight me on it until my coworkers found out what was going on. I call her, I tell people, be this kind of Karen. She was just an angel, just a saint of an angel on earth. She found out she's a little spitfire of a woman. We were in a Pilates class because we got to do like free exercise classes. We coached for the Y. And I had told them some ridiculous story when my jaw got broken. Like, oh yeah, my son, who was at the time, 1.5, 2 years old, we were playing catch and he threw a ball and it hit me so hard. And she was like, by the way, no, that's not true.
She called you
just
out.
so you know. Just so you know. And I told her what had happened. And she was like, what? Yelled in the middle of this. She's like, nope, lifted up our mats. We are going to my house. We are calling this person. We are doing this. Absolutely not. I said, no, like, it's cool. I'm moving out and he's fine with it. And she was like, I'm sorry. No, ma'am.
Yes.
So thankfully, with her grace and a help of a lot of people with pickup trucks, that like within days, we left very quickly with things in trash bags, no couches, like the kids' beds. I left so much of my stuff behind.
Was he there at all?
No,
When you got-
he worked second shift.
Okay.
So we did it very quickly. And it was like in these rushed moments and I'm having conversation and it's almost like once you say things out loud to people who are more sane. And I'm like, oh no, wow, it is really bad, huh? Because Karen would be like, yeah, no, listen to this. Listen to what he did to her this day and this day. And when he came home, I was just focused on getting our stuff. But certainly when you have, and it was like, we were in the country. So there's like these big country people and flipping couches and pulling out drawers and nothing was left nice. Mm-hmm. He saw his house like that. He figured out or knew where we were going and he showed up. And I went into like full panic mode, just hysterically crying. I can't, he's going to take the kids. I can't, just don't let him take the kids. And a police officer came and they were talking to him and I was just shaking like uncontrollably. Someone was upstairs with the kids, making sure they were calm. And I could hear him yelling like, oh yeah, I really just beat the crap out of you all the time. Right, Jess? Right. And really, there was just like a line of people in my driveway. Like, you will not pass this moment. The cops are coming. Try me, buddy. Like, you can come after her. And that's the interesting thing. He's not this big, intimidating dude. And I'm not like a small person, but he's not like this. He's like 5'9". He's not this, any grown man would be able to easily prevent him from doing what he wanted to do. I'll never forget the police officer spoke to him and came over to me and I'm like, just don't let him take the kids. Like, I am their mom. You don't understand. I try to like explain because I have convinced myself they're going to make my children go with him. Mm-hmm. And he looks at me and he says, ma'am, I just want to tell you, this guy just wants his microwave and big screen TV. Like, he's a douchebag. He doesn't want his kids. He hasn't said one word to me about the kids. Can I just give him the television and the microwave? And I was like, sure. Yeah. He's like, and we'll just get him out of here. By the way, do you know how to file a restraining order? Here's the name of an advocate.
Okay.
He was one of the good ones.
Good.
Phenomenal. And he knew, nothing about the story other than what he was observing. And he was very close friends with one of the people who had helped us move. And statistically, obviously, people go back and forth and back and forth. It takes people up to 7 times. Mm-hmm. But that stubbornness in me, it just wasn't going to happen. And I had no desire to go back. And I also think my mom was up there at that point really watching out for us in big ways. And there was no way she was going to let me back there. You know, unfortunately, we have children together. So that part was really hard. And
What did that look like, with the kids after you leave? And is he demanding to see them at any time for visitation or?
it's interesting. Initially, no. He was cool because he had girls over. I went back a couple days later to try and like get the rest of my stuff. And I walked in and he was just like naked on the floor with some chick. And I was horrified. I called my friend and we went over there. I'm like, oh my gosh, he really never loved me. And because she never loved him or liked him, she went over there and she was like, what do you need? We're going to make a list. And we walked in there and this girl was hiding or something. And she was like, you want to come for me? I'm getting the frying pan, you mother trucker. And like holds it up. She was like, go through me. You want to mess with her? That's fine. I'm not afraid of you. Like she was what I needed in that moment. He was just, he didn't really care until he needed to care because he had other people around telling him he should be a dad. I mean, we had kind of arranged like our own semi-schedule because I was working more as a coach. And the only time I ever actually called the police on him, I had taken the kids over. He was supposed to watch them for me so I could coach. And that was really all I asked of him. It wasn't him saying, I want my children. I need to see them. I'm their dad. It was, I needed help and I couldn't afford maybe childcare.
Right.
And there was a girl there and I knew her car and I knew her coat and I left the kids in the car and I walked in and I said, so I know she's here. This is your time with your children. If you cannot focus on just being a dad, then you're not going to see them. I will give you 5 minutes to get this, out of the house, and you can still see them. And I hollered up the steps some really colorful language to this girl who he later ended up marrying. And I love and have so much appreciation and adoration for her now. But at the time, she was this woman who was in the house that I just left 2 seconds ago.
Right.
And I went around to the kitchen and was waiting and he was not going to make her leave. And then the kids come in. I that's what it was. He said she was going to go out the back door. I get the kids were coming in and I still see the coat there. And it was a bright colored coat. So I'm like, what's happening? And he strangled me right in front of them. Our daughter was in between us. She vividly remembers it. I mean, she was maybe 4 at the time. And even after the fact, she would tell people at the grocery store, oh my gosh, my daddy did this to my mommy. And her face turned all red because she just, God love her, didn't know how to process anything.
Right.
And I left there, took the kids and went to go work, coaching gymnastics with children and lots of humans and adults. And I hadn't looked in the mirror. I hadn't thought about it. This wasn't the first time that had happened. I wasn't shocked. And I walked in and all of my coworkers went, what the hell just happened? Because I had his handprints on my neck. Right. I had bruising. There were some scratch marks and there was a couple broken blood vessels in my eyes. And they really gave me no choice and said, your kids are staying here. So-and-so's taking you down to the police station. And I remember sitting there again. God has been incredible in my life. Because I was sitting there talking with this, I think he was a sergeant at the time. And I just said, I don't want to ruin his life. You don't understand. He's my husband. And I know this looks bad, but we're working on it. And it's not I can't do this to him. And all of that was really fear-based because I felt if I hold him accountable, he is going to come for me. I know what he's capable of.
Look what he just did in front of your children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he looked me square in the eyes and he said, ma'am, what just happened could have killed you. I have seen it kill other people. I've seen it kill other women. So now it's not up to you. Now it's my job. And if he wants to be mad at anybody, he gets to be mad at me and let him come try and do that to me. And he put a calendar in front of me and said, I just want you to write down the moments where you can kind of recall that abuse happened. And I was like, oh, okay. And I thought it was going to be really hard. And I just kind of zoned out and was writing. And before I knew it, my coworker was like, Jess, this is all the time. This is every day. This is you've been living like this? And I wish I still had a copy of it because it was just so, seeing it in black and white in that way was eye-opening. And because of those things, then now you have protection orders in place. And he was charged criminally with domestic violence. He was arrested. But because we no longer lived together, I was fed some kind of baloney about precedents and bills that had been passed, that it was pled down to disorderly conduct. It couldn't be domestic violence because even though we were married, we weren't residing within the same home. even though he strangled me. So he
With
paid
your
a
children present.
$50 fine. $50
What?
fine. No child endangerment, no nothing. Walked out of the courthouse that same day. So immediately his ego is just, he's like, I can do whatever I want.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Keep trying, Jess. Keep trying. No one believes you. So specifically that, in that moment, I mean, this girl who ended up being his second wife was upstairs. She heard everything. She watched him be arrested. He's so good at lying. He convinced her, like, I did that to myself, that the pictures of handprints on my neck were from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember even during the court hearing, they had asked the sergeant, you know, do you think that these wounds could have been self-inflicted? He's like, I've been doing this X amount of years and I've seen all these things. And like, no, never. No. Do you know how hard it is? How long could you hold your breath for? Now imagine intentionally holding it longer. Enough to make these kind of marks. It's just not possible. And that really started a 10-year-long battle of just hell back and forth because I couldn't, the abuse between he and I at that point was irrelevant. But I knew things were happening to my children, around my children that were not okay.
Mm-hmm. Was he taking them at all during that time?
Eventually, yes. He had supervised visitation because the court's goal is to reunify and have both parents involved. Right. That's what we need to do. That's what's best for the kids. And especially when you're young, they think, oh my gosh, well, you're young and you only are a gymnastics coach. You couldn't possibly like take care of these children on your own. So you need his help. And then he had a partner who made more money and they looked more stable. They had owned their home and all of these other things that from the outside, from black and white legal purposes, they probably looked more appealing.
Right.
So that also
so he was
didn't
trying
help
to take
me.
them.
Oh yeah. Eventually he filed for full custody. Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. He went from supervised visits at children's services, like under watch with government agencies, to then a close friend or family member, which was a member of his immediate family. So like, what are they going to do? And even in the midst of that, at one point during a supervised visit, my 5-year-old daughter gets brought home to me with a black eye. And I said, what happened? She tells me. I look at the family member waiting for them to be like, oh no. And he just looks at me and goes, yeah, you know, it's a bummer. And shrugged and didn't disagree. He was like, yeah, he feels really bad. It's all right though. It'll just put some ice on it. I was so flabbergasted. I called my attorney immediately at the time, who was not a great attorney. Because I'm like, he hit her in the face. And essentially he was like brushing her hair. She had long, beautiful hair and there was grass in it. And he was, I'm sure, being rough or just being a dad. Even, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Dads maybe aren't great at brushing hair. She was fussing and fidgeting and didn't want it and was like, oh, I hate you. And he hauled off and hit her in the face. So she had a black eye. He was supposed to then have a visitation 2 days later. I refused, held me in contempt of court. And Children's Services investigated. They substantiated the claim that he struck our 5-year-old daughter in the face and basically said, shame on you. You need to go do these anger management classes once a week for 30 days. 4 classes. 4 classes, and then you'll be okay.
It's going to solve his lifelong problem.
Then you'll be okay. So again, at 5 years old, my daughter was taught. I spoke up. I told the truth. This bad thing happened. Nobody listened to me. Nobody did anything. Right. I still had to go back to my daddy's house. And he then learned, her dad learned, oh, has a mouth. So she's going to tell people everything. And that unfortunately turned into her really being kind of just discarded. Their relationship switched over the years, where she was brushed under the rug and you're your mother's daughter. You're just like your mom, and really treated poorly. And our son then got the brunt of whether it was physical or emotional abuse, because he would keep quiet because he idolized that man. His dad was his oxygen, everything. He would never say anything that could potentially hurt his father. And he knew that. So he would pin them against each other tremendously. I mean, our daughter even went to court one time saying, because she was then in school, saying things to teachers, saying things to counselors that they were picking up on and coming to me. And I would say, yes, I believe all of it. This is our history. Right. Because as much as you're fighting to keep them safe, you're also in the midst of a legal situation where you're underneath a microscope in custody court. And the number one thing they tell you to not do is talk trash about the other parent, which is so hard when we've gone from supervised visitation to now he's getting unsupervised and then overnights and then all weekend. And I'm terrified, but I can't tell anybody. And I can't tell the teachers like, hey, could you let me know if they say they ate breakfast when they came into school? Because this is who this guy really is.
Yeah.
But
oh, God.
She was called into court and her teachers were there. Like the director of her private school was there. Big adults were there to verify this is our experience. This is our background. This is why you should take our opinion seriously. And because my daughter at like 5 or 6 years old couldn't put together a timeline, that's what this magistrate wanted of her. She couldn't put together a credible timeline of the abuse she was witnessing. And it wasn't even specifically to her. It was her brother and her stepmom that she was really worried about. They said we couldn't really believe it because who knows? Mom's probably coaching her. Or she's so little, kids
But when
get
they can give
confused.
details at that age, that young, it shouldn't matter. And it's sick that they don't even pay attention to it.
So again, she's reinforced. I'm speaking up. I'm telling the adults about the bad things. Nobody's listening. Nobody's helping me. And my son, even though he's maybe not directly involved in those things, is witnessing it and saying, oh, I'm going to keep my mouth real shut.
Right.
Because what's the point? So we just 10 years. I went through 3 different attorneys because it's not that they were all bad. They just didn't understand. You can have a really great divorce and custody attorney, but if they don't understand how abuse works and the reality of post-separation abuse, which certainly does not get talked about enough, because it's not just leaving an abusive environment, married or not married, kids or no kids, it's almost impossible.
Yes.
And you leave and you survive, and then the world thinks, yay, like sunshine and rainbows, like high five. It's great. If you don't understand the details of what abuse is and how that looks like and how these people operate, specifically in custody situations, you're setting yourself up for failure.
It's almost unbelievable to people who haven't lived it.
Yes.
I think.
Yes. Because even when my daughter got hit in the face, I had called my attorney and told her what happened. And I said, we should call Children's Services, right? And she was like, well, I'm like, what do you mean?
Well.
And she was so highly recommended. This woman who I was like, oh, great. I definitely want a woman on my side. And she withdrew from my case because we couldn't agree. And I was completely fine with that. My second attorney was a great man. He had a Bible on his desk. So I was like, yes. But again, it just got to the point where it was almost too big for him to really, he got us legally divorced, and that was a celebratory day in and of itself. But we would have these moments throughout that decade-long time span where you're battling and then you modify a custody agreement, and he would always get more time. Because, we want to have everyone together, and that's the goal, and that's what's best for the kids. And Dad, it's been this amount of time, Jess. Dad hasn't done anything in 3 years, 4 years. You got to let that go. You got to move on. Meanwhile, my kids are telling me really shocking shit behind the scenes that no one is listening to.
They usually don't change.
No.
I mean, they need to start realizing that, especially in the court system.
Yes.
They're clueless.
They can't.
Yeah.
They're so good at camouflaging it. When they know they have to, because you're underneath the microscope of the court. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to play the game, and he played it way better than me. I'm out here thinking, oh my gosh, the truth shall set you free. Right. And that's not true in court. It's about who tells a better story.
Yes.
And he was telling a way better story, a way more believable story. And I kept moving further and further away from where our marital home was, because that was not home for me. I wanted to be back in my childhood home city. And then I moved even further away to Cleveland because I got a job in downtown, thinking this is great. I'm going to be a nursing assistant at the Cleveland Clinic. I was in nursing school. Who wouldn't? The courts will eat this up.
Right.
Oh no, they were so mad. I moved too far away, didn't notify them with enough amount of time. And I had to actually retreat. We were all the way up by the lake, and that's where I ended up back where I am. I had to be within a certain linear miles as the crow flies, because then all of a sudden he was residential parent. Everything flipped in several years.
Oh my God.
Everything flipped because he had more stability. He had remarried this woman. I was just a single mom who was in nursing school, in small homes, moving from here, moving to there, making ends meet, still singing the same tune that nobody could prove. And it's like my life was perfect. I made so many mistakes throughout that time trying to survive, be a young single mother, and figure out how to take care of my kids. So none of that helped at all. Any misstep. I mean, I remember one time at an exchange, he would just look things up randomly, and he clearly thought that my driver's license was expired. And it wasn't. I had just renewed it, but he thought like I hadn't, or I don't know. And he locked our kids in a running car and was refusing to transfer them to me, like wouldn't let them come out. The kids are in there crying. He's calling our guardian ad litem, calling her like, not just like, this is not her name, but say her name is Stephanie. He's calling her, hey, Steph. And I'm like, Steph? What are
like they're buddies.
You're just chilling? Like we're on that kind of basis with each other? And she thankfully finally told him, well, I can't verify this. I'm trying to look. I'm calling so-and-so from the PD. You have to let the kids go if there's a problem. And wouldn't you know it, 10 minutes later, whoop, whoop, I get pulled over. And they try and run my plates, run my driver's license. Everything's fine. I said, could you tell me again why you pulled me over? Oh, well, you were just going a little bit over the speed limit, this and that. My kids were traumatized, terrified. I mean, and that's just the life that I lived for 10 years. You're trying to move on. You're trying to be happy. And I'm, miles and miles and miles away from this life I lived when I was married. But I'm not out of it because my kids are still stuck there. And now they're stuck there more. And I'm not in the house to protect them. So I can't get in between them. And now they are older. And my daughter is getting mouthy. And she's not going to stand for it. And there was even a moment, oh gosh, she may have been maybe middle school age, where she went to his family members, her family members, saying, this is what's happening. This is what my dad is doing. Help. And instead of helping, they told him what she said. And maybe in their mind, that was their way of trying to help. I don't know. But also, none of that information should have been new to them. And when they got back to their dad's house, he put her in a corner for hours with a book on her head and was throwing like balled up socks at her. And if the book fell, she got more time. Like crazy psychological nonsense stuff that she would be punished if she opened her mouth. He would try and prohibit school therapists from talking to her, because even like she was in middle school and was doing a math workbook and wrote in the margins, I can't live with my dad anymore. I would rather die.
Really?
Turned her paper in. And it's infuriating as a mom, knowing she felt so unseen, unheard, and unprotected that she's writing shit in a math test for someone to desperately see and take care of her. That's what she was doing. And also that I couldn't friggin' fix it. I'm spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on these attorneys fighting for their safety, and I'm losing. And this is what she's willing to do. And I mean, even when he became residential parent, by that point, my dad, who was really involved and helpful in this whole process, we had just kind of resigned ourselves to the understanding that we had to give the courts what they wanted. They didn't like that I kept moving and I kept saying, no, my school outside of your county is better. My environment outside of your county is better. It was, no, we're better here. So if dad's here, it's better here. So we had to just eat crow. I had to pay child support. They started to go to school. Oh, that was so freaking infuriating. That was so terrible. I had to pay him child support. They went to school there. He got everything that he wanted, so he thought. We knew the pressure at some point would crack, and just prayed, like desperately prayed, that the kids would, everybody, but specifically the kids would be okay. In the meantime, and things came to a head when our daughter took a ton of, I think it was amoxicillin and ibuprofen in a baggie to school and said she was going to end her life because she couldn't live with her dad anymore. And by this point, thankfully, that school had very much caught on to what was happening, to the tune of even like he had tried to set up a personal meeting, I think the week before this, with them to basically talk about, it was after the math test, and he was going to talk to them about how he thinks mom is encouraging his daughter to say bad things. And they called and told me, so we're not really supposed to do this, but this is what's happening. We think you should be here. And I have never, that was a very delightful moment to be sitting in that office and have him walk in and be like, huh? I was like, hi, good try, buddy.
Yeah.
But they could see through the cracks, and maybe there's red tape and administrative nonsense. They just didn't really know what to do. And when that happened, even though he's residential parent legally, he's meant to be notified first. They called me right away. She was okay from what we knew. But of course, her friends were very concerned about her. The school was very concerned. They let me know by law, obviously, we have to let residential parent know. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you this amount of time. How soon can you get here? My dad and I got there.
So they must have known other stuff was going on. Maybe she was talking to them.
Had to have.
Another time. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I had very transparent conversations with them. Once you just open that door a little, I will sing like a canary and make you fully aware of the reality of what these kids are living with. Because even at that point, it wasn't merely what I knew they were enduring. They were telling me things about their stepmom that I knew were not okay. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for several years, I just thought they had this great relationship and they seemed so happy and they got engaged in this really like beautiful way. And I was like, well, shit, it really must have been me. Like I pushed him to the breaking point. Yeah. I am a pain in the ass. I don't, dang. But I didn't know. And until I started to know, I wasn't sure how to help her. We had no relationship. He pinned us against each other tremendously. We hated each other because heaven forbid we talked, then it'd be game over for him.
Mm-hmm. Were the kids coming home at all and saying like he abuses her?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. There was a specific moment where she had like marks around her neck and he told her that she like tripped on a shoe, fell down the steps or something. And my daughter was like, absolutely not. That's BS. Mm-mm. She told teachers that. She told everybody these stories.
Because she saw it.
Yeah. And she would hear things or she knew what the marks didn't look like. She would find, I got her a phone at a very young age. Didn't want to because we needed a safety net because I couldn't communicate with them. And I had learned even like before school, they were being left alone. And he had weapons and would just leave them out. They would like video call me and it would just be like on the table, out on the bed. Terrified because he was using it, I didn't know at the time, to threaten his then wife. Bad situations. But even like one day they called me in the morning before school, there was a broken picture frame with blood all over it. So meanwhile, I'm screenshotting, taking pictures, all of these things, building up. I got a new, very expensive, very fancy attorney demanding I need to modify. Like I'm telling you, if I know anything about this man, I know something bad is coming. Something bad is coming. Our daughter went to school, threatened to overdose on pills. They gave us this window of time to get her to the ER because no one could confirm if she had actually taken anything. Sure. So we get her to the ER and my dad is there, thank goodness. And I'm back there with her and I've just kind of prepared for it to be business as usual. Yeah, whatever, dad's fine and they can go back there. And it took him a really long time to get there. After the fact, I've since been told that it's because he thought I took the kids up to where I lived to go get checked out, which shouldn't prohibit you. It's not like I lived in Alaska. Right. You could have driven there, but he wanted nothing to do with that. And then when he was encouraged, let's just go to our local ER and see if your child is there. Don't you give a shit? Mm-hmm. And he walked in furious and was met with Papa. And Papa was not about to have any of that nonsense. My dad was like, absolutely not. And so the second he saw my dad, he was just diffused and beside himself. And abusers are like that. Because I encounter that now all these years later. You're not going to get me. I know exactly who you are. You can't pull the wool over my eyes. And that's who my dad was at that time. He had been in every hearing, every meeting, he'd listened to his grandkids tell him these awful stories. He knew who this man was. He also knew legally he couldn't do the things he probably wanted to do to him in order to stay and protect us. And their dad could sense all of these things. So even when he got there, they had it had to have been a sane nurse of some kind, but there was also a social worker involved. And they asked our daughter, "Are you okay? Your dad's here. He wants to come back and make sure you're okay. He's really worried." And she said, "No." And that was the first person, medical professional, like actual professional that mattered to say, "Okay, he doesn't have to come back. You don't have to talk to him." And when they went and told him that, livid.
He
What do you
lost his
mean?
shit.
What do you mean? I can't. That's my daughter. What do you mean? She wasn't even supposed to. She's not a residential parent. I don't know why the school called her. Just spiraled. And that, of course, didn't help anything for him.
Right.
And they took us back into this room. And we had long conversations with the social worker without me. My daughter did. I have nothing to hide. You can talk to her all you want.
Oh, he probably definitely didn't want that.
No. Because he had been stonewalling then, because even from a school's perspective, once she said too much, they cannot talk to her without your permission.
Mm-hmm.
So when he would say absolutely not, they won't push it so far.
Right.
So after they spoke with her, he and I were in a room with the social worker, and she said, "It's very clear to me that your daughter is terrified of you. Whether you understand that or not is irrelevant to me. And it's not my job to understand why she's terrified of you. But I can firmly see that she's terrified. So right now, she's going with mom. Your other child is going with mom. These are the next steps that are going to happen." And so he wasn't.
Oh God, did he lose his shit?
I wish I could have just taken I feel like you could just see his skin turn red all the way up.
Yeah.
Livid. Because he was losing control.
Yeah.
And it's like a dog being backed into a corner then. Mm-hmm. And so I knew, again, that's consistently the only thing I can predict about him is his unpredictability, especially when he's backed into a corner. Mm-hmm. So our parenting plan was kind of thrown out the window. We were supposed to go to like a family counselor. And we did do that, I think like a week and a half later. And his wife was there, and she just looked like a shell of a human being. It was alarming. And I will vividly remember so desperately wanting to just be like, "I know you're not okay. Like, I'm here. I'm here. Like, just talk to me." And I didn't know how to do that or what that meant. Like, I was waiting for a signal from her, and I would have done anything. Like, right. Stay with me, get in my car, I don't know.
She was probably petrified of him.
Yeah. Petrified. So ordinarily, he would have had them on this certain day. It was a Sunday, and they ended up being with me because of all of this going on. And he was meant to pick them up after school that Monday afternoon. And we were on our way driving to school, and I got a call from him, cool as a cucumber, which happened all the time, saying, "Hey, so-and-so's sick." Or I think he said maybe his wife was sick, and "Can you keep the kids a couple more days? I don't want them to get sick." And I was like, "Sure." I didn't question it. Great. Love it. Yes. Right. Keep them with me. Take the kids to school. I get home, and then I get a call from the police department. And he says, "Have you heard from him?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, like at this time, this is what he said. Like, why? What's going on? Where are my kids? Are my kids okay? Where are my kids? Are my kids? Your kids are fine. Everybody's safe." And he tells me there was an incident between he and his second wife the night before. And my heart just sank. And I just kept saying, "Is she alive? Please tell me. Please tell me she's alive." Because I wasn't prepared for the reality of something permanent happening to her. And I didn't intervene. Thank goodness she was alive. He couldn't really tell me anything. Because when you're just the bitter, bitchy first wife, no one grants you permission for anything.
Right.
So he told me there was an incident and they can't locate him. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, like, how big of an incident are we talking? My kids are in school in your county right now. I need to make sure they're okay. He said, "Well, okay, you can let the schools know that he probably, if he shows up, they should not release the kids to him. And if they need to speak to us, we'll let them know and we'll cooperate, whatever." So immediately my mind starts racing. And I still have a relationship with some of his family members, and I contact them and I'm like, "What is going on? What has happened?" Nobody really knew. And eventually I found out that he almost killed her that night, that it wasn't just an incident, and they couldn't tell me anything until they had located him, because he almost killed her and had access to firearms, and the firearms were not in their home.
Oh, God.
He strangled her with a belt multiple times until she was unconscious and lost control of bodily function. He fractured her orbital bone in multiple places, broke her nose. She had hair missing, third-degree scars, rug burns from being sexually assaulted, monstrous behavior. And I remember the police officer calling and telling me she had filed for an emergency protection order. So it's public on the docket. You can see. And I said, okay, great. I'm going to get off the phone. I'm going to go read it. He said, let me read it for you. Because he just knew. And mind you, for a decade, I had been in your district, in your county, in your courtroom saying, this man is not safe. Something is wrong. Please help us. So I think pieces of puzzles were being put together in the midst of all of this as well, because it was a small area. Mm-hmm. And he read it out loud to me, and I got physically sick. I threw up because I just couldn't believe. I knew what he was, but I didn't know he was capable of that. Really? And I couldn't believe that she survived. I couldn't believe that she survived that. And I learned he did all of this, and she tried to leave on her own in the car. And she's in the street in front of their home, and he climbs on top of the car and kicks in her windshield, preventing her to leave. And she's such a badass that she just stuck her head out the windshield and drove herself to the hospital with a busted face. Oh my God. And like, it just gives me goosebumps, because had she not had that kind of bravery and fight, I don't know where she wouldn't be. She would be. I don't know where my kids would be. I don't know where we would be. Her life almost being taken from her changed everything. Changed everything. I could never say thank you to her enough for surviving and for fighting, because, I mean, how easy it would have been to just give up, because she thought certainly it was over in that moment, that it was over. He told her it was over. She thought her life was done, and she pushed forward. And so after I found out what happened, I did ask him, like, is she actually okay? And he told me that she has been in the hospital this whole time. They had her like locked down in some kind of wing because he was on the run.
With guns and everything.
Yeah. So they were concerned. And I was like, well, you know, kind of would have been good to know that piece, because I absolutely wouldn't have taken my kids down there. I would have removed them, because that's terrifying. But also I said, can I like talk to her? And he told me no. So I hung up and called her. You did. Right away. It's like, I don't know why I asked. What are you going to do to me?
Right.
And we don't talk, though. And obviously, this has been years now, and we've talked about so many things since. But I called her, and she has said, my sister saw your name come up on my phone. And they were like, it's Jess. She was like, Jess? They're like, it's Jess.
It's Jess. Yes.
She's like, I didn't know what was going on. I said, I could not call her. And I was actually en route to get the kids early and rip them out of there and just hug them, because I had no idea what anything looked like going forward. And she said hello, and I just said, I'm so sorry. And I just started sobbing. And she started sobbing. I don't think there were a whole lot of other words said other than, whatever you need from me, I am here. I will do whatever you need. I am here. I don't care about anything else. And that's what happened. I mean, we were there for each other in massive ways. It was the most like cathartic, bizarre experience, his criminal trial, because for the first time in 10 years, there was somebody else saying, I believe you. You're not crazy. I have lived it too. And even saying, oh my gosh, I remember that day, because this is what I remember happening. And it was the weirdest kind of illumination. It's like this sick club that you never want to be a part of, but it's really reassuring to not be a part of it by yourself. And I've even had conversations recently about her and I's relationship, and like how we got to the place where I could call her. And because for years prior, it got to a point where I was like, I know my kids are not safe in this home. You are the only other adult in there.
Yeah.
Are you at fault? What are you doing? But the second I knew what had happened, I knew there was so much more that I did not know. And that if it had gotten to that point, there are things that I can't even fathom she has had to live through and experience, and that I had no doubt. And she didn't know any of the stuff really that had been going on with the kids, because she traveled a lot for work, and he was so great at lying, or I mean, he's threatening her with what she thought were loaded guns and awful things. I mean, her story is just heartbreaking, what she was having to endure.
You feel it was worse than yours?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, from a statistical perspective, the kind of abuse we each endured is similar, with the strangulation and the sexual assault and being restrained against our will. All of those things are similar. The severity of it, she got it far worse, because that's what happens. That's what the courts don't understand.
Yeah.
You had us in your face for a decade saying it's not okay. We are not safe. Something is wrong. And what happened was it got worse, because that's what always happens. They're not going to change. He's not going to magically get better.
And he never had consequences, really.
Never.
Ever.
Ever. He was slapped on the wrist and then given the keys to the kingdom, essentially, and allowed to do whatever he wanted to do. So he was sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Where was he? Where'd they find him?
He was hiding out at his attorney's office. Make that make sense.
What?
Make that make sense. He was hiding out at his attorney's office because they hadn't issued a warrant. So legally, they weren't doing anything wrong. And it wasn't until they issued a warrant that, and that's what's so crazy. Even once they issued the warrant, and I could be misremembering, they said, okay, well, we'll turn him in on this day at this time. I'm like, what? Is that?
Go get his ass.
How does a warrant work that way? Because he was charged with very big things initially.
Yeah.
Attempted murder, kidnapping, felonious, DV, all sorts of things. And we're just, oh, sure, we'll just see you at 5:30 on Tuesday. What are we doing?
Let's give him a little more time to do something if he wants.
It was insane. Insane how that played out.
It's so scary.
And even he's not convicted of attempted murder, which is so frustrating. But the judge's explanation was, in order to convict someone of attempted murder, you have to prove intent. And he didn't feel he had enough information to prove intent. I'm like, I don't know what someone is intending to do when they put a belt around another human being's neck and tighten it to the point that they lose consciousness. More
times.
than one time. What is your intent? What are you talking? And it's justice was served as much as it could have. There are people who get murder or attempted murder charges and don't get 2 decades. They absolutely realized that the ball had been dropped.
Mm-hmm.
He's
very dangerous.
And I wrote a massive statement to the police because again, I'm just the crazy first wife. I wasn't, from a legal perspective, for this instance, nothing that transpired in our divorce, in our custody, in our marriage can help. What it can do is just help paint a picture of the history. Yeah. So I gave them as much as I possibly could. And then even for his sentencing, I wrote a very lengthy victim impact statement. And I have since been told that someone got it. And it was like 12 and a half pages long. It was aggressive. But it was basically just pleading, saying it has escalated. Like everybody says it will, and it does. And the only thing he has failed to do is actually take someone's life. And historically, abusers go after the people closest to them. And the 2 people that are closest to him are my children. And I promise you, if you do not hold him accountable and he ends up taking one of them away from me, that's unacceptable. And that will be on your conscience. You will be held accountable. And I hope you're okay with that. And I know the judge was not necessarily happy about it, but the probation officer was like, you need to read every single word of this before you consider anything, because it mattered.
Yeah.
It mattered. This was not an isolated, and that's a really frustrating part, I think, about our judicial system. Even if you have great people in place and attorneys who are doing a great job, or prosecutors, anybody, or even great judges and magistrates, the laws are not set up to help them protect people in the way that they want to. So that part is really hard. But when you have people willing to at least hear everything and understand that it probably logically doesn't make sense that this dude just woke up on a random Sunday and did all of these things out of the blue and was like a picture perfect individual the day before.
The law's so frustrating with that stuff. Like, you can't bring this past this, and this marriage doesn't matter, and all that abuse. The law
it's really frustrating.
Especially in family court.
Yes, because it's so muddy.
Yeah.
And the law is really black and white, and abuse is not logical. And then people get so stuck on that. Well, this doesn't make sense. Well, of course it doesn't.
Oh, shit.
Because it's not supposed to.
Yes.
If you understood it, then you would be an abusive person.
Right.
So the fact that you don't totally comprehend the ins and outs and the whats and the whys, that's a good thing for you. But you also have to just give in to what you don't completely understand and accept that this is the reality of people's lives.
And be grateful it's not happening to you.
Yeah. And we're doing them a disservice by not protecting them in that way. Because it's not as simple as you leave and then life moves on and everything is fine. Because there's always then somebody else. And that's the hardest part, really. Sometimes as a survivor, you have to focus on yourself and you have to protect yourself. But it's hard then to think about that piece of it, of somebody else maybe coming after you and what that looks like and how much do you get involved. Because there was a girl that he then dated during his criminal trial, a young girl. Yes. I don't know how. This part really, I don't totally understand.
Yeah, but he's a good manipulator.
Very good. And she was like in there sobbing for him, like so sad. And I just wanted to be like, are you not hearing all of this? Like what? Again, what do I say? How do I talk to you? I have no idea. Because he was, when he was originally, arrested and charged and everything, his bond was really high. And essentially he had a bond hearing and was like, but we can't pay that. And they asked him, well, what do you think you could pay? And they reduced it so he could pay at least that amount. Because you don't have to pay 5% or 10% or whatever.
So he got out on bond.
Yeah. And he bought a business while he was out on bond. Like literally 1 month, he's on the front page saying, such and such man accused of attempted murder and sexual assault of wife. And then flash forward maybe 5 months, maybe. And it's his picture saying, bought a business, like shaking the hand of a councilman or a mayor or somebody. And I'm like, well, what kind of twilight zone am I living in right now? And those people, of course, tried to sue him because he defrauded them of whatever their investments were, his business partners. Didn't
you think at that point, though, even seeing that, were you like, this nightmare is never going to end?
Yes. There was just no way out.
Yeah.
I mean, because even after the post-separation abuse, sure, but the marriage, just all of it, all of those years, happiness doesn't seem attainable. Yeah, I was just very resigned to the fact that this is life. And I certainly didn't choose the abuse. I didn't do anything to deserve it, but I chose this guy. And I chose him in one way or another as the father of my kids. So this is the cross I bear. I don't know. And I don't know how to get out of it. And I didn't see any way out of it for a very, very long time. Because maybe good things happen, but bad things happen very quickly after that. And usually the bad things trump the good things. And you just roll with it. And that became the new normal. And even after he was in prison.
How long did it take for them to put him away?
A little over a year. Not super long, but long enough. When he was out, that part was terrifying.
I bet.
Because even that, they told us, don't worry, like if he gets out, there'll be electronic monitoring. And there'll be like radiuses for his children and his second wife to where he can't go and will be alerted. And none of that happened. None of that. No electronic monitoring, no nothing. So at that point, you're on trial for attempted murder, and there was no monitoring that took place. I don't know. It was very frustrating and scary.
Of course.
Because for whatever reason, and I think it's just because I have always been the one to speak out. Here I am still doing it.
It's okay.
But loud and first, I'm enemy number one. So regardless, like I had nothing to do with this situation. I couldn't have changed it. I didn't alter anything. Yes, I shared the truth of what our reality had been and things that you've done that you've done. But I mean, the threats are just out there. It's my fault in one way or another. And then part of it is the kids. It's the kids that are connecting us and him always wanting to have a road back to them. And I'm in his way in that regard. And it will always be, distorted his perspective of them or their perspective of him. And that's my fault. I'm like, oh no, it couldn't possibly be what you did to their family member, to their stepmother.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with it.
They never own anything.
The fact that they're adults now and they can come up with their own conclusions.
Right.
And also this is their life that they have lived and experienced. And they, kept some kind of correspondence with him off and on through the years. Which is really, that's a whole thing. That was hard.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Because they don't see all that he is behind bars, because he has to behave now. He doesn't have a choice, and he can't touch anyone.
And he was still himself. That's what was so uncanny to me. He was not trying to like gloss over anything and be nicer. I think they just really wanted to, there was no closure. Like he went from hell on earth to all of a sudden he disappeared.
Yeah.
So there was no sense of, and each of them independently have tried to have like their own conversation with them just to be like, come on, can we call a spade a spade? Like, let's just say it. Let's just be honest. Let's put it out in the open. Because that's was always my boundary for anybody in their life. His family, friends, anybody. I'm not saying I'm going to like bash him to you. We don't have to do that. I respect everybody's opinion to support whomever they want and love people through whatever. I'm a mother too, kids, whatever. But we're not going to facilitate my children living in delusion anymore. Because in order for them to heal and grow and not find themselves in that kind of relationship, in that kind of situation on one end or the other, they need to be allowed to be honest about their life and their experience.
Right.
And
they
if
have their
you
own
can't
closure with that.
Yeah. If you can't do that, then you don't have a place here anymore. A lot of that has changed, and they have just come to the understanding of the reality of it all, and they know who and what he is, and it's sad and very unfortunate.
As a mom, to have to watch it and feel it and watch them go through all that, gut-wrenching.
Awful. That's what I say a lot. Like, healing as Jess was really hard, but then also trying to heal as like just the mom and helping these two teeny tiny humans who did nothing wrong, and their minds aren't developed and they don't even know what the world is. And that healing has changed so much over the years that it's impossible some days. And
I'm sure.
like, there's no book telling you how to do it. And even within my own family, people will listen. My dad is incredibly supportive, but he will jokingly say like, yeah, kid, I don't know. I have not been in this situation.
Yeah.
This is all you. And of course, in his mind, it was just always, absolutely not. We're not talking to him. There's no communication with him, his mailman, his family, his nobody. It doesn't
even make sense to communicate with
dead.
him. Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not that you don't feel that as a person, but as a parent, the more you tell your kids not to do something and not to want something, the more that they want it.
And at the end of the day, it's their dad, and he might have done all these awful things, but every child wants to be loved by their mom and their dad and be accepted. And oh my God, I don't envy your roller coaster that you probably lived with them
hard.
When they were younger, especially.
Well, yeah. And then watching them get older and maybe at different moments be like, okay, maybe it'll be different, and try and like reconnect.
They have hope. Yeah. They just,
especially, it's just always, especially with our daughter, man, the things he has said to her, even since then, and the emails.
While he's been in there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're just like your mom. You're going to be a perpetual victim, colorful language, because she will try and hold him accountable and say like, we need to just be able to be honest.
Right.
I don't approve of this. I don't like this. I want to talk to you about this. And
hopefully she realizes one day she's never going to get that.
Yeah. I think she's there. It just is always going to be sad. Of course, it's always going to be sad and disappointing.
Right.
And even though now I'm very happily remarried and they have asked him to adopt them and names have been changed and all of these beautiful, huge, beautiful moments. Not that I'm glossing over that in any kind of way, because my husband deserves endless amounts of credit.
I mean, that's a lot for any man to walk into.
Are you kidding? And we got married later in life.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
because of
like
you,
mid-30s.
because of the kids, like just.
He went from being a complete bachelor, never been married, unicorn of a man. And he's 6'6", this guy with dimples.
Wow.
Like he's a unicorn of a man. I'm like, oh, Patty kept him for me up there.
Yes.
Somebody years before, she just plucked him out for me.
Thanks, Mom.
Never been married, no kids. He just was like, I can't imagine anybody else but Kevin fitting for us. And it's not easy. Because it's not just being a step parent. There's a lot of baggage.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of moving pieces and parts. There's so much going on.
And ever changing.
Yes. And it's just, like being a step parent is hard. And then being a boy dad versus a girl dad. And we have a biological child together.
Oh, you do?
We do. She's 4. She's so precious and wonderful. She just like completed. She was our like little bookend to our family in the most beautiful way. And it's been a lot for him to navigate, and he rolls with the punches. Not that it's been simple. We have hard conversations. We have disagreements, because how I have learned to parent kids with crazy PTSD that have gone through all that trauma is a very specific way. And I've had years of practice. Right. Meanwhile, he comes in brand new. And of course, you like, especially like man to son, you parent a certain way. And I'm like, we gotta kind of go around it and like work out the feelings. He's like, feelings? We're boys. He's actually a big teddy bear, but like it just is different. Yeah. Those conversations are hard, and you have to find a partner who's really willing to go on that ride with you. And it's ever changing. So like
deserve that so much.
Oh gosh,
your kids
I didn't believe
deserve
it.
that.
It took a long time.
I bet.
I really, because there was somebody in between that was what it was, and it just wasn't.
You just needed one more lesson to
wasn't needed to be. Well, it's interesting when you come out of the abuse and you're working on healing, and I was very active in therapy, talk therapy, EMDR, all the things. I'll do whatever. Good. So you're not looking for the same red flags. Then I kind of found myself in a similar situation, just not as severe. But I didn't know.
Well, that had been your norm.
Yeah. And I thought I was just looking for stability. So like, oh, we got to have great jobs and great futures and great this, and all those things were there, and a great, like, incredible family. And, we have this wonderful, goofy little kid together, and we just weren't a fit for one another. But in my mind, it was, oh, but he's not abusive and he's not hitting me. So like, we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Right. Like nothing else qualified as like we shouldn't be together, because it didn't rise to that same level. I couldn't rationalize, no, maybe it's just not right. And maybe even me, I met him at such a point in my life, and now I have grown and healed so much. Maybe genuinely I've outgrown what this relationship was.
Yes.
But it took me a long time to be okay with that, because I felt like a failure. Of course. I felt like, no, here I was like, this is my happily ever after, guys. And I figured it out, and I'm healed and better. And it felt awful to have to say like, oh no. So by the way.
How did you get out of it?
We just had conversations, honestly. We both knew. Okay. Yeah. In a very like adult, healthy manner. Good. We both knew. We just were roommates. Right. And we went through seasons of just being like really, really good friends. And now we co-parent, and it works well. As well.
You're like, wait, we can have a conversation and we can get somewhere with it.
Right.
It's great.
What? Yeah. We don't have to have like these knockdown, drag out fights every single time. What's happening? Holy cow. Wait, I could still have like a relationship with your family and like be around people, and it's not a completely different environment. But when you come from that kind of trauma, it's like all or nothing. So it's okay. Now we have to say goodbye to and then I felt terrible as a mom for my children, for my oldest, because these were more people that were now out of their life. And they're not it's not the same. But for a lot,
still like a loss, and a big change.
Yeah. So you feel it's the grief of it all.
Right.
And then I was just like really okay with, I'm good. I got to a point where I really loved my life, and I loved myself, and I was so happy with where I was with my career, where I was with the kids, and we were in, even if it was a shit show behind the scenes, we were figuring it out. Like I'm not saying I was a millionaire rolling around with like this perfectly cushy life, but we were figuring it out. Right. And I think only then I was in the right place to have met my now husband, because I was so content with who I was.
I think that's so important for you to share, though, that you did have another relationship after all that trauma and just horrible things, that you lived through. And then you had a relationship, but then you were healed so much more after that. Yeah. Even the fact that you guys were able to have conversations to move on and move forward, I think is such a big deal compared to anything you had before.
Oh, absolutely.
So you grew so much.
Tremendously.
Yeah. And then you were ready.
Very. Well, I was ready, and then also kind of indifferent. I mean, I knew I wanted love. I've always been a hopeless romantic in those things. I was active. We met on a dating site, so it's not like I wasn't seeking it out. Yeah. But I was like, I don't know. Guys are, man, whatever. And I've got all this baggage and all this stuff. But I mean, you do get asked then when you share about the abuse. And now if you just see us in 2026, it's, oh, how do you find love again? I'm like, well, first of all, you don't just find it. And there was all of these things in between.
Right. And a lot of healing.
A lot of healing, a lot of mistakes, a lot of missteps, a lot of trial and error. And even like my younger son's dad, I don't talk about him often because there's not necessarily a reason to, and we get along. But I don't ever want people to think I don't want to ever put out the perception that I went from 10 plus years of horrendous trauma and abuse to just happily ever after.
Right. That's
not possible. And fundamentally, he and I, my youngest son's father and I, we're just different people. Honestly, I'm like dorky and goofy and silly and like, I would embarrass the crap out of him. He'd be like, oh my God, you're being so loud though. And I'm like, really? We're just
That's not a thing to say to me.
Yeah, we're like, not, I couldn't be myself. But when I met him, I didn't know who I was.
Right, exactly.
I didn't know who I was. Right. So it didn't really matter what Jessica wanted because that wasn't even part of it. I would just put things on paper like good job, literally good job, good family, God-fearing, like these things that I thought we needed because we came from so much chaos.
Right.
And so it didn't matter who I was or what I wanted or what like I was attracted to or quirky, funny or not funny or none of that mattered because I didn't care about any of that. Right. Love was not at all a concern of mine. Not that we didn't have love for one another. I don't want to say that. If you watch this, don't be angry at me, please. I say things on the internet all the time. And he's like, what? Because I will refer to him as Mr. Good on paper. And sometimes he gets pissed. I'm like, no, I'm not saying it because I'm trying like to keep your anonymity. Right. He has a very kind of like powerful job. And I'm not going to like throw your business out there. You're not forward facing. But on paper, you know, if you were to like go to a parent, specifically a dad, and say, oh, I met this guy and he's a this and a this and a this, on paper, perfect. Right. That's like your dream candidate for a daughter. I'm
like,
being kind.
I'm complimenting you.
Professionally, I'm being very kind. We just weren't a match. We just weren't. And it took us a long time to kind of get there and figure it out. Because the same thing from Catholic backgrounds. And then we had a child together. You want to figure it out.
You and
make like the trauma of all of it with the kids wasn't lost upon us. And he had a child before, you know, so we had a blended family already. So we we didn't want to have to undo all of that. But then they're just, again, it wasn't simple. Yes, we had conversations. There were certainly arguments and tears and really hard nights, but comparatively, like, that's the thing that I think sometimes gets lost in the translation. The opposite of abuse is not easy perfection of a life.
Right.
That's not the antithesis of anything.
I like that you mentioned all that too, like that there were trials and falling and getting back up. You went through a lot of shit to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
And I like that you don't discount that.
No, because it's taken me a minute to get there. Because even through like the decades plus of the post-separation abuse and being with Mr. Good on paper, I wasn't actively talking about my first marriage. There were like really good friends of mine who didn't know the reality of what it was until his criminal trial. It was like, oh, I'm not married because it was kind of abusive. Yeah. But I was not getting into specifics. I was like hiding in plain sight for my own life. Yeah. It took me a long time to face those things out loud. And it wasn't necessarily shame. It was just kind of like, I don't know. Once I say it, like, what do I do with it? And kind of the fear of him. Yeah. I certainly will never take for granted, even though he could and can be out possibly at some point.
How long has he been in now?
About 8 years.
8 years.
He could be out in like 2, potentially, for early stuff. And is actively trying to, get out as soon as possible.
Aren't you afraid?
I hate to say it out loud because I want to just be like, no, screw him.
Yeah.
But I'm terrified because, I now as a speaker and domestic violence advocate, I don't want people to live in fear. But
but there's also reality. And is he in there like just every day thinking about this? And you and
does
her.
Does he know that like I go on podcasts and talk about these things? I'm sure his family tells him because they will comment on my stuff sometimes and get really mad. Like his second wife and I one time did an interview actually with Fox 8. It was the only thing we've ever done together because like while I'm out here saying all the things, she has very beautifully and peacefully moved on with her life.
Oh, good.
But it was around strangulation during an act of domestic violence not being a felony in the state of Ohio. We were the last holdout state. And she and I had each written or testified in Columbus back in, I think, 2018, 2019, when this bill was first trying to get passed. And when I learned it hadn't, I reached out to her and I was like, girl, I know we don't do this and I know you don't do this, but
let's do it.
Let's do this. So we were interviewed together on the news and it was so cool. And we got to do it with a couple different networks and tell our stories to just compare, this is what I experienced. Years later, this is what she experienced. It is imperative that you pass this legislation.
And it progressively gets worse. And for them to recognize
people's
that.
lives hang in the balance of this very important decision. A member of his family saw it and sent it to her on, I don't know, the internet somewhere and was like, Jess is on there pretending like your story is his story, her story, da-da-da-da-da. And we just want to be like, if you would have watched the whole piece, I'm sitting right next to her, homie. Like, what are you? This is not new information. And again, why am I enemy number one?
Right.
I'm not saying anything that's not true. And people just want you to, being healed doesn't erase the trauma.
Right.
And that's also this misconception. You being a healed version of yourself doesn't mean that now you don't have to talk about it. You don't get to talk about it. This is still my truth. And this will forever affect the way I live. Forever.
100%.
It changed the trajectory of my life, of my children's lives. It changes the way I move in the world probably on a daily basis. I'm going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. I always talk about it from my perspective. Mm-hmm. I leave names out. I protect people when I don't have to, but because that's a decent thing to do. And this is my story. Mm-hmm. I don't need to involve the other things. And I'm not angry. That's the other piece of it. Because I have healed, I don't believe anyone's like fully ever healed. Healing and in a different place. I don't talk about it from a place of like anger and bitterness and wanting people to believe. Mm-hmm. It's just from the sense of awareness. Because it rounds out this story, this journey that I have been on now. And I didn't even realize it the other day. I was talking with someone that's been 22 years. I will be 40 in May. That's over half of my life. Mm-hmm. And you want me to not talk about it.
Right.
And never bring it up.
It's funny how people don't they're afraid of the truth. Mm-hmm. And it scares people.
And it's also this kind of idea of like being a perfect victim. Because I will get that then inevitably from some of them. Oh, but you did this, or you're not perfect. I'm like, yeah, I'm so not perfect.
And never said I was.
Never said I was. I made lots of mistakes, but you know what I never did? I never did this. I never did this. Right. And I had to pick up, do you know what it has been like having to pick up the pieces of this massive mess that he created? Mm-hmm. And then, because kids are kids and it's not intentional, but when you're the only parent left to blame for all of these hurt feelings, that's a lot to put on one
kids
person.
That have no idea what to do with those feelings. Yeah.
That's a lot. And you're going to make it worse.
Right.
Because on the other side of this, I am happily married. God bless my husband. He's just wonderful. But we finally get married. And even like the week before our wedding, I talk about this sometimes. I was so excited to marry him. And it was like on our special place in Middle Bass Island. Are you familiar? Yeah. Our family has a little lake house up there. So he and I mean, the first time I took him up there, he was like, he's just a teddy bear. Don't get mad at me. He was like in tears, just so happy. He just loves the water and like nature and, it is our place. So the fact that we got to get married up there was really special, but he's like in this love bubble of just, I can't wait. And you're going to be my missus and da 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 da. And I'm friggin' panicked. And I'm like pissed at him that he's so happy. And I'm like, but why can't I get happy? Like, what is broken in me? And I realized it's because I'm so terrified of the other shoe dropping. Like this happiness is like, what's going on? And it's interesting because I could identify that in my children. I can be like, oh, they're going to self-sabotage because life is going too good.
Right.
When things get happy, that's foreign and they're going to screw something up.
Sabotage it before something else happens.
Yeah. But in myself, I was just like spiraling. Of course, I did what any person does. I like recorded myself and then posted about it because I'm like, what? I'm broken. What is happening? I love him. I swear I love him. I know my mother-in-law is going to see this. I love him. But it was this weird thing that I hadn't quite discovered. And so we get married. And I mean, I had years of like weird health things, like inexplainable pulmonary emboli, blood clots in my lungs, recurring back and forth.
Okay, that's just weird, though. I just have to say that you and I have both had that.
It's very weird.
With all the trauma.
No factor V, no anything.
Nothing. I've had every test imaginable at the Cleveland Clinic, at Metro, like all of it. Down in South Florida. Like I'll get a hematologist and they'll be like, oh, we got to do these tests. I'm like, no, I've really had every test.
I've done them. You can redo them. And they can't figure it out.
Nothing.
And then of course, during, the pandemic, it was, oh, well, it's probably just because of COVID because they came back a couple times. I'm like, or not, but now you just don't know.
Right.
I had all of these things and we got married and I, as a speaker, had launched this like summit. We were going on tour. I was so excited, which was ludicrous, by the way. Like I had a baby. 6 months later, I had a summit. Did it by myself. I'm just like, cool, let's go. This is not fight or flight trauma response.
I've been through way worse. I can do this. We can
handle this. Did it. We get married. I'm like, yeah, we're going to go on tour. We're not just going to go on tour. We're going to go to Texas. Everyone said, why Houston, Texas? I said, it's just, I had this friend on the internet there. They said, do you know a lot of people there? I said, no, but it'll make it work. It'll be great. It's going to be awesome. Just watch me.
I know my husband's going to say that you're my twin when we do this.
It made no sense.
No.
I found a location. We were rocking and rolling. We had these things planned. We get married. And like ticket sales weren't exactly what I needed them to be, sure. But then all of a sudden we're at home like 6 days after we get married. And my uterus basically like falls out on the bathroom floor. I end up having to have an emergency hysterectomy. Oh my God. No tour. Postponed. I would have been in Texas potentially within a couple of had this happen. Yeah. And from that moment on in our marriage, it was like one big kind of health thing. I had hernias. We had to do that. And then we had to hit the hysterectomy. And I put on a crazy amount of weight. And I just wasn't healthy. It was like I got happy and my nervous system did not know what to do once I wasn't in fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And my body imploded on itself. And I started to do a little bit of independent research and Google the things and listen to the social media humans. And I was like, autoimmune disease. What is that? And I have since been diagnosed with lupus, which again, I had years of all of these weird, I was having like syncopal episodes, weird, unexplained, don't tell me. Yeah. Seriously?
Yeah. We could ask Dan right now. Look, he's
shaking his head. I mean, unexplained all of this, but by the time I went in at like 267 pounds, trying to get a new primary, I met with one of her physician's assistants and I'm like sobbing. And you go in to see a PA for an initial visit. It's like 30 minutes. I was there for an hour and a half. Bless her heart. I'm like, I bet. I know my husband's so hot. I mean, it was deeper than that. Like, you have to help me.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like myself. I mean, it came to a head. This was February, that Christmas. I was wrapping presents Christmas Eve and I almost couldn't walk up the steps. I was in so much pain. My body hurt to go from sitting to standing up to walking up the steps. I remember going to our bedroom and just collapsing in Kevin's arms. I'm like, I hurt so bad. I can't do this anymore. So I'm telling her about all these things and she listened. God love her. Again, there's just these God moments throughout this journey where it could have completely went this other way because medical gaslighting I have experienced, but here she is listening to me cry and ran all of these tests. Lo and behold, the correct markers come back that can correlate because there's no like definitive test for lupus, but at least it opens up the door medically for your insurance to approve the consult to rheumatology. And I go into a rheumatologist who I genuinely, right after that visit, I told my husband, I was like, this guy is so done being a doctor. 2 weeks later, I get an email saying he's ready to retire. He's done, find a new doctor, basically. Because he was fine. He was just like, well, if it cracks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's probably lupus, but we just never know for sure. I'm like, this is not helpful for me. Meanwhile,
Right.
I had done like all of this research and I'm like, okay, I'm hearing about an AIP diet, autoimmune protocol, and all of these things. And he's like, there's no approved diet for autoimmune diseases of any kind. And I'm like, what? And he was so not helpful. But we're going to put you on these anti-malarial medications that we use for lupus. Sometimes they make people go blind, but you'll probably be fine. I mean, I say that, it sounds scary, but it is fine. It is usually fine for people. But he was just like, I'm like, okay, I'm grateful to not be crazy and to know that there has been something going on with my body all of this time. But also, dude, what is going on? And that has been such a journey in and of itself to try and get healthy and rediscover who I am happy. Like what does that version of me look like?
Right.
Because I didn't know anymore. I had, we had this big, beautiful family, and our 4-year-old who I taught, I mean, she's literally the gift to us. We didn't know that we needed. My husband absolutely needed to be like a biological girl dad. He was just meant to. He's so darling and adoring and dotes on her. It was just meant to happen. But like I was 35. I mean, talk about at one point in my life, I was a teenage mother and then also a geriatric parent. Like, what is
Don't
that?
you love that? You're like 32 and they're like, you have a geriatric
Can we
pregnancy
get that
here.
off my chart, please? But she was almost 12 pounds.
Wow.
She was 11 pounds, 9.5 ounces at 37 weeks. She would have been 12 pounds easy.
Did you end up having a C-section?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I know saying that, but at the time I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have a VBAC for sure. I've done that with all my kids. My first was 10 pounds. Like it's fine. And of course my OB, because she's not a moron like me, was like, oh no, honey, I knew the whole time.
Yeah.
Your baby was enormous. Because the second they saw my husband, they were like taking bets in the office how big the baby was going to be.
How long was she?
She was 24.5 inches. Huge. Huge.
Is she big now?
Yes. She's 4. She's probably the size of like a 6 or 7-year-old. Stop. She's very tall. She's just, I'm like, oh, she's going to be a basketball player.
Long
she
legs.
could do volleyball, sure, but I just really love basketball. Also, we want to get her to be golfer because girls who golf are like so few and far between.
Yeah.
We're just athletes. Let's do it. But she was just this beautiful, oh my blessing. And it also just did such a number on my body. But like you're on this high of being in love and we're getting engaged. 2 weeks later, we found out we're expecting. So we're planning a wedding and the baby. And then we went from having the baby. I had crazy postpartum depression, which of course I announced on the internet like any sane person would do. I hadn't even talked to my husband about it. He was watching my Facebook Live and he was like, so.
Stop it.
Yes. Like I'm sure he knew.
But he's probably used to it if he knows you.
It's totally
like,
who I am. It's totally who I am. We like all of these huge, crazy moments and the tour and then the wedding and we're so happy. And then it just literally came crashing down. So I had to really rediscover how to kind of put these pieces. And even from a professional perspective, once my first husband was away in prison and I started advocacy efforts around domestic violence because which was completely accidental. I just felt like I had to get it out of my system. I had kept it in for such a long time. I sat down and did a Facebook Live, ugly crying in my bedroom. It made no sense. Like there was no outline. There was no timeline. I just literally had to get it out. And it wound me up on the board of a DB nonprofit in our area, which I was so thankful for. I would have never.
That's awesome.
I was kind of like, me? Like, I don't really have money. I'm going to be on the board. What do I do?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, there's doers, there's donors, and there's door openers. You could be a doer. I'm like, yes, I can do things.
Yeah.
No, they were wonderful. They helped me find my voice and learn that I even had one. So the first time I ever spoke publicly was at an awareness event. And then I was like, oh, wait, that could work. Maybe that's kind of the purpose. So I launched this like accidental speaking career. But you do that long enough and you look at it from eventually like this business perspective of how do I help the most people? Domestic violence isn't something that's right for every single room. Where do I go with it? And I kept waiting for how do I talk about it in a digestible way that other people can understand, that maybe is relatable because I feel like I'm missing something. I'm missing the mark. And then it was, well, maybe it's this happily ever after with my husband and that's so great. And it still wasn't sticking. And through the lupus that led to me having a stroke in October of 2024. Have I not told you that part?
No.
Yes.
No. I remember I only look at like some stories and things like that. I did not. I knew like you were in the hospital before, like over the last 6 months or whatever.
Oh,
like, stuff like that. But weren't you in the hospital?
I was.
Recently?
I had pericarditis over New Year's Eve.
Yes.
So it's like inflammation around your heart and lungs. Because the autoimmuneness of the lupus of it all is inflammatory. And it affects everybody a little bit differently. My heart and lungs tend to just go a little bit bonkers when I get in a bad flare. And I've had 2 different bouts of pericarditis. And then I had this random stroke that happened basically because of inflammation. Instead of a clot or a bleed, it was inflammatory. Good news on that, it's a little bit easier to correct. Unfortunately, I lost almost like a significant amount of control of the right side of my body.
That's why you were, okay, now it all makes sense. But it was so hard for me, like even when you were doing like rehab stuff and learning to walk again, I'm like, God, I don't want to know. Like, I didn't want to know yet.
That is why.
Oh, okay.
So that's where that all led to. And I wound up doing PT-OT speech numerous times a week, a couple of hours every week. My husband came with me.
See, I was just assuming, like an accident or whatever
you
that
have no
happened.
idea.
You're learning to walk again.
Sure.
Wow.
And even that whole situation was just whatever. I mean, they weren't totally sure. It was like, well, maybe it's a TIA, which is a transient ischemic attack. So it's a small stroke.
Right.
Not that any stroke is small, but essentially with the TIA, the symptoms rectify quickly. And they sent us home under the assumption that like, oh, you'll wake up kind of and feel fine and like be better. And we think this is it. And that was not the case.
What were your symptoms?
I was having crazy migraines and I had been having them, but then it got to the point where I started vomiting. And not been having them, I mean like for a week. So it was a still new symptom.
Just really, really bad.
But then I was like, okay, well, inflammation, like I must be in a flare. Lupus was still, so I was diagnosed February 24. This was October. So it was still under a year of trying to wrap my head around what that looked like. I'd been actively working to kind of lose the weight, which was helping in other ways. But I started vomiting. We went into like our local ER, which was just a standalone ER. It wasn't attached to a hospital. So that was a bummer. But immediately they did a scan and like your brain is meant to be in like 2 beautiful little halves. Mine was no longer. I had this huge midline shift because of inflammation. So they were like, yeah, that's not normal. Something is going on. But it wasn't having like weakness or any of those
like
symptoms
the pain
yet.
Down. Okay.
Until they sent us to a hospital, which was still a smaller hospital. And we've since learned they have no neurologist on call and no rheumatologist on call. So why they sent us there, I don't understand. Because then they sent around like the robot doctor on like the little Zoom screen for neurology, and they were trying to make sense of it. And it was kind of in between them trying to make sense of it, and then they were transferring us to main campus Cleveland Clinic, downtown Cleveland, because we knew something was going on, couldn't totally make sense of it. And then I don't remember entirely. I know they had someone from maybe physical therapy in the room, and they were having me like write my name and draw a clock, and I wrote things backwards or couldn't write. And Kevin left in the evening to get prepared to like meet me up at main campus in the morning or something. And he said he remembers me saying I couldn't like, oh God, my hand's tired. I couldn't hold my toothbrush or my pen or something like that. By the time he came up in the morning, there were like 6 doctors in the room asking me to raise my arm up and I couldn't. And he was like, what the hell happened? Nobody called him. Like he had no idea.
It's like, I'm never leaving you again.
Yes. No, he was terrified. And I'm just like, what? I was texting my friends saying like something had happened. And some of them were even unaware that like I had lost my ability to walk. Things were not making sense. So yeah, that was a bummer. That certainly wasn't on our bingo card.
Wow.
The first several years of our marriage have been on top of the trauma and the kids and the all of like, this has been a lot. He has had the weight of the world on his shoulders. Yeah. Because even like I went from a career that was thriving to when your job is to stand and speak in front of people, and now I can't stand, and speaking was a challenge. I had like a pretty decent facial droop. I could speak, but it was different and like a little slurred and stuttered. And I really struggled finding words sometimes. And I still struggle, like the TED Talk of it all this weekend. A lot of my anxiety around that is my memory recall is just different.
You're worried, like a little nervous about it.
Yeah. So the things that like I could use before the stroke to work on memorizing, those tools don't always work for me now. So I just, it's like extra preparation and different tools. And I think I've kind of figured it out, but it's like, it's different. And that part is crazy. Anxiety producing. Because
you're freaking amazing.
I don't know about that.
I totally didn't even think about all that. But then as soon as you said that, I'm like, wait, it's when you were learning to walk again and everything.
Yes, because when I was supposed to come originally, in therapy, we had this crazy goal. My therapy team was just so cool. Again, God is good, man. He's just so good. I went into them and I was like, so I know we're doing like all this stuff and like, this is your job and you know what you're doing, but I have this thing. My son's a senior in football and our tradition is we tackle our kids. I know I can't really walk, but can we make it somehow? Can we work so I can tackle him?
So I can
Can we figure out? I've been waiting 18 years to legally tackle him, please. And they were like, bet, let's do it. They were so on board. Kevin, my husband, would come in and he would hold the ball. Because my physical therapist was also a woman. She's like, I don't know anything. Like she's talking to her husband and they have sports med in the same. So like they're consulting. It was such a really cool experience. So I was able to do that the same week as when I originally was supposed to travel. Of course, everything landed on the same day, but it was this huge thing we had been working for like months to be able to get to. And it just made like, certainly our goal was to be able to walk and run and be independent, but adding this like extra layer of funness. And when it's your kids, you'll do anything.
Yes.
So I'm like, he's not going to be the only varsity player there with a mom that doesn't do this. I will come hell or high water. And it was all the varsity things. You walk your kids out onto the football field. I'm like, I'm not using a freaking cane. I'm not having a walking device. I don't want it to be awkward and have everyone be like, dude, what's wrong with your mom? I just wanted it to be about him.
Right.
Granted, I did make a huge video. I tackled him, so that was totally about me. And I was very theatrical and like walked up with the cane. And he thought like, oh, she's just having a rough day. Because he knew like at home, I could ambulate decently without it. I really only had it when I was really tired. And then I like threw it and got ready to and some of his really good buddies behind me, like watching it, I just cry. Because I didn't know that at the time. I was so nervous. I'm like, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. Because my right foot is really the thing, if anything, that will bother me. I have foot drop. So my ankle just doesn't have the strength sometimes to pick my toes up.
Okay.
And so with the running, my toes would get stuck sometimes. I was like, oh my gosh, do not, because you have like, I have his pads and freaking helmet on, and that's like crazy enough as it is. And if I fall, everyone's going to think that I've definitely broken myself, and that's going to be so embarrassing. But it was this beautiful moment that we got to share together. And I was so proud of just both of us that like he fought really hard to be on that team his senior year. Everything he has gone through in life, he fought so hard to be a part of that team because he wasn't the year or two before and had overcome a lot. And so it just felt like this like culmination of a lot of hard work for he and I. And it's not like he's a boy, so it's not like we talked about that.
Right.
But I felt all those things. And so that part was really cool. And through all of this physical therapy and healing with the lupus, finally I was like, oh, this is it. I don't know why it's taken me 22 years. Like that part, God, really seems super lame. And it took that amount of time, by the way.
Shortened that a little.
We could have expedited the process. But now I can talk about the importance of healing and how even when you think you're actively healing, the way our body holds on to that trauma and the damage that it does to our body. Because you can be outwardly actively healing all the time, but our body can be giving us warning signs, screaming at us sometimes, these warning signs. And if we aren't working very hard to listen and understand and interpret them, our body will eventually leave us no choice but to listen to it. And that's something I work with every day. Even like traveling for the TED Talk. Traveling for me with lupus can be a little bit unique. This is my first time traveling by myself post-stroke. So that was interesting. And that's not impossible. That's the thing. A lot of people, no matter the disease, nothing has to stop you.
Right.
You can absolutely adapt, because even if you look at where the disease came from and the trauma that put you there, you overcame all of that. So like you can overcome this and you can figure it out. And it doesn't have to stop you from living happily and joyfully and doing these incredible things and achieving these big, scary goals.
And it's normal to have anxiety through all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to adjust those expectations. So like, I have to really work on regulating my nervous system all the time. But then I'm nervous about this huge speech. It's a pretty big speech. And I don't want to mess it up. But if I get too nervous, my body will get thrown off and I can go into a flare.
Right. And
I don't want that. So it's just these active practices every single day. And I'm like, well, I know it's not just me, because I'm cool, but I'm not like that unique. There's definitely other people out there that have these same struggles. Yeah. And that has also been the beautiful part. Just like when I first began advocacy work at all, you're connecting with people who automatically make you feel less crazy. You make them feel heard. And it's been the same experience where they're like, oh my gosh, I never looked at it that way. Or I haven't thought about it from that lens. Or I have been experiencing this and nobody has talked to me about it before, specifically as women. And I love you guys. I really, truly do. I have great men in my life, but women carry the weight of the world on our shoulders in ways that it is impossible to put into words. And being able to relate with each other has just been the greatest gift I could have ever. It's like an unanswered prayer, or not an unanswered prayer. It's answered, but I didn't even ask. Yeah. I wasn't aware how much I needed that connection or how lonely I really had been throughout the healing, because isolation just felt like a survival technique. And I got so accustomed to these survival skills, and I was really proud of them. Like, dude, I've made it through this. I made it through this. I'm proud of myself. Right. Like, look at these bright and shiny survivor skills that I have. They're pretty cool. But nobody told me that like I could put them back in my tool case, in my tool belt. No one said, that those survivor skills, they're meant for times of survival. That's it. And when you utilize them all day long, every single day, you are ruining your body.
Wow, that's so important.
Yeah. No one talks about that. Because be proud of surviving and be proud of whatever you had to do to survive, good, bad, ugly, or otherwise. But you don't have to live that way all the time.
Right.
You just don't. But you feel like you do, because it worked in the hardest of times. So you feel like, oh, it'll work when things aren't so hard. And then I'll just really be kicking ass. And it'll be like really great.
We think so anyway.
Like I used to always say, oh, I do so well with an overly full plate. Like give me a time crunch and 100,000 things to do, and I'm going to knock them all out of the park. And maybe, but the toll it took on my body, I can't do that anymore. So now intentional boundaries and knowing I can't do everything for everyone all the time. Not that any of those things are easy, but the alternative is being super, super sick and winding up in the hospital or hurting your body more. And again, not that any of this is self-imposed, because that's sometimes that misconception of autoimmunity and it stemming from trauma in some kind of way means you have not healed or you haven't done something wrong. None of that is true.
Right.
Because healing, again, does not equate to erasing trauma in any kind of way. We're just learning how to carry it better. I like to refer to trauma as like a stone in your pocket. I actually did this talk recently and we got to have a vendor table, which most people are excited about because you get to like sell your stuff or make money back or do whatever. And I brought rocks to my table and people with no explanation, just like a basket of rocks and like a flyer with like my promotional speaker stuff. And people were like, what are the rocks for? I'm like, you'll know after I talk. It'll make sense. And there were different sizes and kind of shapes. And it was so weird that people were intrigued enough. But then afterwards, I got to have really cool conversations with everybody because I said trauma is like a rock in your pocket. When you first put it in there, it's probably really sharp and jagged and annoying. And you feel it. Like you feel the weight of it. You feel the sharpness. Maybe it's really dirty and it wears through that pocket on the outside and you're embarrassed that other people can see the dirt. But then the longer you have it there, that friction smooths it down. And then it's not as sharp and jagged. And maybe it even gets a little bit lighter and it just kind of becomes a piece of you. and it isn't as hard to carry, and it's a little bit lighter to carry. And trauma can be that way. I'm incredibly grateful for my trauma. I wouldn't know the things I do. I wouldn't be the woman I am that got to marry my husband. So trauma's like a rock, and that's okay.
I love that.
And I like that perspective, that like visual.
Yes.
And then the rocks make sense.
Makes so much sense.
People were like, oh, you're the crazy rock lady, but I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
Totally. Wow. I love that.
Thank you. It's just a different way to look at things. So it's crazy to reflect on the 22 years of it all and the totality of it. I mean, even leading up to things like giving a TEDx talk just feels big. I mean, it's big.
It is big.
It
is big.
It feels big by itself. And then like knowing what led me here, knowing that I'm just a young mom who made so many mistakes and fought like hell to get out of this really bad situation without answers. There wasn't people saying, you're right. Like, this is exactly what you need to do. No one does that for you in abuse.
That's so true.
And we overcame this and this and this. And now this is where we get to be. It just feels like crazy cool. And and
the relationships that are built through all this, that's what has been mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
Like the people that are all still healing too.
Absolutely. And the grace that's given to you by the right people is incredible. And I've met people, even like really great people who just come in for a season, and I reflect back on those seasons so lovingly with such immense appreciation. And you outgrow each other in one way or another, and that's okay. And you move on. Like I was having a conversation recently with someone who's also a survivor, and especially the people that help you survive that trauma, you really put them on a pedestal. Yeah. And then it's hard when that relationship maybe no longer serves you. You're like, I don't know what to do with it. And I went through a lot of that, even with my cool Karen. We didn't speak for a little while because my life was freaking chaos.
Yeah.
And she is a survivor in her own right in many other ways, and in an abusive way. Like, you have to set your own boundaries then. You can only take on so much. Once you get to this certain point of survivorhood, I feel like you know what those boundaries are for yourself.
Right.
And she helped me in the most incredible time. But then trying for me to put my pieces back together, she knew that had to be me. And then we've reconnected and stay in touch. And she is so supportive and my biggest cheerleader. And we get to just...
Perfect.
That's what it was meant to be. Those people never really leave you.
Right.
But at some point, it will make sense. And it does come full circle. It does. I hope that it doesn't take 22 years for everybody. But the blessings that have come out of those 22 years, even in really dark moments, I'm insanely grateful for. Right. Even in the loss of my mother, which I don't know how to fully ever rationalize that. But there's a lot of beauty in watching your parent fall in love again. My dad was like a little super friggin' annoying high school kid falling in love again with my stepmom.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, Shell, it's so cute. But it was also keep your hands on your lap. Stop. Just stop it. I get it. Because my parents had been married for 25 years. So they weren't super affectionate in that way.
Yeah.
And he's, I'm like, why are you touching her hand? What are you doing? But it's...
Keep your damn hands to yourself.
To watch your own parent go through such grief and such tragedy and then come out on the other side. And now I have this incredible other family that I wouldn't have gotten. I have siblings. I have 2 brothers whose names also start with J, which is super funny. And I wouldn't have ever had that opportunity. So it's not like you trade one for the other. And I think people struggle with that when you look back on reflecting and appreciation. You think, well, I can't really be happy for this because that means I'm wishing this away.
Right.
And that's absolutely not true.
Or that your mom didn't matter as much as she should have. Yeah, I get that.
So not true. But I know that my mom wouldn't want me to be in misery for the rest of my life. just like she wouldn't want my dad to be
Your
in misery.
dad too, yeah.
And so it's really cool to see him happy and in love and have all of these other like amazing people. And I have, you know, nieces and nephews and all of these other cousins, like people that I would have never had if things had gone a different.
Beautiful.
So it's not like you want to replace things. I'm just so fortunate to have had and be in the position now. Because not always, by the way. There were just moments where it's woe is me. And why me? What the hell? This is enough.
How could you not think that?
Yeah.
That's normal.
It's that whole like, I hate it. God only gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And you're like, when did I sign up for war?
I'm always like, well, I don't want him to think I'm strong anymore.
I didn't enlist.
Yeah.
And now I just like switch it a little bit and I say, God doesn't do that. He makes strong people through tough experiences. And I just have I now, years later, with time, like it doesn't, none of those reflective wisdom, gratitude pieces happen instantaneously. Right. I can be thankful for the gifts that have come out of those low moments because it serves me more. I can focus on the awfulness. It's there. It's justified. You can be mad and be angry and be sad and why me? But I feel more joy and purpose in looking at it like, why me? Okay. So like it wasn't like my plan to have a stroke and not know how to walk and have to do these things, but what can I learn from it? And it's given me like, again, this bookend to a way that I communicate with the world that I wouldn't have had without it. I don't know that I would have gotten to that conclusion in a way that I give back to people and relate to people without that awful situation. Even in the way you show up for hard times, I could have went into physical therapy, super annoyed, and been like, ugh, sure, I'm here. I'm going to be here. You want me to do what? Fine. Yeah. And just like half-assed it. Yeah. And instead we got to make it really fun and learn to tackle my kid to the ground again. Like that, those were cool moments.
So awesome.
So those little, and it sounds, listen, I'm not like a super woo-woo person. I really am not. But those things matter.
Take those wins.
Yeah, and those mind shifts really make the world a difference. It doesn't make the hard times unhard. It just makes them more manageable.
Yes.
And you deserve that. So it's been a long journey. It's been
You're
a long
amazing.
journey.
I'm so glad that you came.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to ramble on. You.
It was absolutely perfect. It was perfect.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure that all your links are in the description.
Thank you. Yes.
Did they say how long it takes for the TED Talk to come out?
I want to say potentially 2 months, anywhere from like 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So they record it, edit it, send it to like the TED gods, and they have to like sign off and give their approval, and then it will be released.
Okay. And I was just hoping we'd have the link.
I know.
For your thing, but it might be a little sooner.
Yeah, we'll see.
But we can still stick it in there.
Fingers
afterwards.
crossed.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
Good luck. You're going to kill it.
Thank you.
You will. I have no doubt.
Oh, I hope so. I've been practicing backwards and forwards, and I'm going to be decked out in purple, which is domestic violence awareness color and lupus. So I'm like, if ever two things.
And it's my favorite color.
Yes. My shoes are purple metallic. Stop. They're so cute. I will have to say that.
I cannot wait to see. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Just the good juju.
Yes. You are full of it. Full of good juju.
Oy.